I mean, following up from what you just said, you have done a lot of projects for different cooperatives. So can you tell us a bit about what kind of process it is to work for cooperatives?
Maybe first we reach a program for a competition. This is almost always like that, and that's really nice. It's a good culture that cooperatives mostly free, freiwillig.
In their own will.
In their own willing, make competitions. And the program is mostly professional. It's quite good, and there are programs which, or cooperatives, they really exactly describe what they want to have. And the amount of kitchen modules, the size of the rooms, how many apartments with 2.5 and 5.5 rooms, and so on. And there are programs which are quite open. They want to have a proposal from the planners, from the architects. And for our case or our part, the open programs are more interesting. But it's also good that cooperatives with a precise program, they are open for proposal which go out of the program, which die machen einen Verstoß. We want
that go against this program.
Yes, we want some competitions for cooperative housing where we went out the program and we won, and that's also nice, and that speaks for the quality of the jury. And then it's we are interested in housing. That's our main topic we are working on, and because we are all of us, we are professional in living, because we do it every day, and so we do, and we think about that. So it's quite normal to be interested in housing, doing housing, and to work together with the cooperatives is always a safe business, because most of them are really well organized, and when you win a competition, it's more or less safe that it will be built. And then usually we start after the competition the next 3 or 4 months. We start with a project, and then we work on. And sometimes the discussions are more hard, and cooperatives which are quite open, like Mokino, for example, they're quite open for proposals, and other cooperatives, they have their experience and they want to stay on their experience, and they don't want to try out new things. So a lot of discussions. Often we have the meetings with clients often in the evening, because the representative of the cooperatives, the responsible person, they make a free unpaid job, so they work during the day, and at the evening they spend their time for housing. So we have the meetings often in the evening. Yes, that's the daily business, more or less.
when you said, two questions, one of them is, when you said free program, these are usually not related to housing units or, so for instance, communal areas, or can you be also open, do you have more freedom in designing the units themselves?
Yes, it's more like maybe the mix of the size of the apartments and so on. That's more or less described. And there are, for example, how you always have to have a vision how the people want to live in, the form of living. And there are programs which describes exactly how people should live in their apartments, and there are programs which let it open, how the people could live, or where the connections between the different households are. Also the Gemeinschaftsräume,
The community spaces.
Community spaces. Sometimes they are exactly described. Thank you. How they have to use and how large they are. And sometimes it's open. They just write. We need some space for the community, but not more. And sometimes they in Zurich we have the Ausnutzungsziffer. It's a tool to measure the density. It's a government rule, and some cooperatives let it open how dense or not dense it could be. So they are not, the opposite of a developer who is doing that for money. The cooperatives are not. It's the main topic is that the prices of the apartments are okay for them, and how you reach that price, it's open.
Yeah. And when you said some cooperatives are more open and some are, some cooperatives leave more freedom for architects and some cooperatives describe everything as it is. Do you see a correlation between the size of the cooperative and freedom they leave for architects?
Yes, a little bit, because the big cooperatives, they are they have to be very well organized. And there are other smaller cooperatives, they have an idea and they want to offer low-priced apartments, but they are not organized by an office. What's this? Geschäftsstelle, administration. They're organized by some people. They're doing something.
In this process, are there, for instance, you mentioned the density tool that you have. Are there any standards or assessment methods, other types of tools that you use to ensure quality in housing, in design?
I didn't understand the question exactly. Maybe you have.
So abgesehen von der Ausmessungsziffer, was gibt es noch für Tools, die ihr benutzt, um die Qualität aus den Genossenschaften erfragen, wie sie zu erreichen? So rechnerisch oder vielleicht
there are these common standards, like SCR 500 is the rules for the handicapped peoples and so on. That's clear. That's all everywhere. The cooperatives ask sometimes or often for an energy standard or ecological standard nowadays. It's important for them, but there are also others, they let it open or say we want to have simple buildings, for example, with less technique and so on. But mostly it's quite, the standards are quite clear in terms of I don't know, in terms of the standards of the society, the Erwartungen, the expectations of the society. You know, it's when we work together with cooperatives, there's almost you cannot discuss the colors of the walls, or for example, it's white, and this is a standard in our society, or the wooden floor, for example, and so on. These are these undescribed standards.
And do you find that challenging when they ask for standards, when they ask for more details? Yes. Do you find it difficult when they describe everything? No, but at the end of the day, the buildings are maybe not less good, they don't have less, they have maybe less tension or less, not so strong, or yes. But I think that's okay. Not every apartment has to be an explosion of space. I don't know. Yes, I mean the standard of the apartments in Zurich are always or still very good. So I'm not complaining. Was heißt das? Nicht beklagen.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining. Well, that was my next question. What do you think about the quality of housing in Switzerland? But
can I jump in quickly on one about something you said? I like that idea that you said that we all have a profession in living, that it's quite normal to think about housing and think about how people want to live. Do you ever get feedbacks from the cooperatives, perhaps a few months later or years later, that eventually feed into your other projects?
Yes, we have, but not a lot. There's never a reflection meeting, for example. And it's also, for us, it's also always very interesting to see an apartment we designed 2 years after when people are living there. And but it's not easy to see the apartments, that they open the doors. But we hear, sometimes it's also written in the programs of the competitions that it's always the same words, that the apartments have to be livable, and you should put your furnitures, a lot of furnitures everywhere, but that's it. So, it's okay. I think we can imagine how people live in our apartments, or generally in every apartment. And it's not. We are not those architects who think we have to see in the society. Educate. We make sometimes proposals how it's possible to live. In smaller units or houses, yes. Sometimes we can try out something, but we never think in that way should people live. It's always should be open a little bit.
So you think what drives the high quality in Zurich, high quality of housing, is what actually people expect from housing, and not particularly standards, rules, or regulations?
Maybe important is that, as you maybe know, the prices for living is in Zurich quite high. Not there are some cities with higher prices, but it's high. And there are always people who want to live in Zurich, so the pressure is also high on the market. And there is a huge sympathy for cooperatives who they work against this this Entwicklung,
This development.
this development that the prices are rising. So there's the cooperatives are very present in Zurich, and especially in Zurich, in Basel also a little bit, but in the other city, Geneva maybe, but not in them. And the cooperatives are really strong in Zurich, and that's because of the history. I can explain that, but it takes more time. And in I think in the 90s of the last century, there were some people connected to the cooperatives which had an idea, and the idea was to listen to the partners, to the architects, and so on. And at the same time, there was starting a wave of the wave that people want to live in Zurich. So in the 60s, people went out of the city, and now they come back. And because of that and other reasons, in the 90s, there started a discussion: should we keep our buildings from the 40s, or should we replace them? And the direction went to replacing, and that opened a door that in Zurich a lot of new buildings were made, and this was connected, as I said, to the question: how can we live in the future? And so on. It was quite open, and the discussion was open, and then there was also not a discussion between architects, but we have since some years, or maybe 2 decades, this tradition, a little bit, this culture in Zurich, that we open the doors after we finish the house for the other architects. So we have a quite interesting exchange of knowledge, and it's also a little bit
Competition.
Yes, between the architects. So it's a healthy competition we have between architects to try out something, to make it better, and that's still that's still like that. Maybe the interests are moving. In the last 20 years, the quality of the space was the highest topic, and we see that. We don't see plans here, but you see that when you look at floor plans for Zurich. There's this one dark blue book like this, Zürcher Wohnungsbau, I guess. Use Grundrissfibel. There are some books representing the diversity of space quality. And now it's moving a little bit in the question of our environment, protecting our environment and so on. And it's going back a little bit in the 70s or 80s, where The question how a building is structured, how it can be renewed or how should I say, Nutzungsänderungen and
or reused, maybe.
not reused, but refurbished and change the usings. Maybe when you have an office building, you can make out
conversion.
Yes. Like that. This is, in my opinion, so the direction we're moving.
Related to that, so in Zurich, the space per person in housing is quite high, but arguably, if you move into a more environmental direction, you would want to reduce the consumption of space per person. Do you see any action like that, or any thoughts around it in the market or from our cooperatives?
Yes, I don't know exactly the numbers, but I guess in Switzerland the average area or square meters in Switzerland per person is around 42 square meters. And in Zurich it's around 30 something, so it's in Zurich it's less. That's the first thing. And I observed that when we started building for cooperatives, for example, a 4-room apartment was expected to have 105 until 110 or 15 square meters. That was almost 20 years ago. And now it's around 95 or 90 square meters. So that's the first step. And the other thing, now it's some years ago, the cooperative started also a competition who can have the smallest apartment, who can reach that, and they also think since 3, 4, 5 years about to share space. The laundry is traditionally in Switzerland it's a shared space, but also space for working. It started during the lockdown, the COVID lockdown. This question, how we work at home and how we can manage that. So these shared spaces for working, also for sometimes for cooking. Once they thought about sharing the bathrooms. So yes, this is but we have a project now running where the square meter per person reaches 24 square meters. But it's not cooperative.
Okay, then I ask my next question, which is, can you tell us what you would consider the main differences between cooperative housing and private sector housing? I don't know if you do any work for private sector.
Yes, we do a lot. It's difficult to explain. Because the cooperative have the characters are really, there's a lot of diversity and also by investors. So it's I have to think. Now sometimes when we started with our office 18 years and since maybe 15 years we work together with cooperatives. In the beginning I had the feeling that cooperatives were more open, they took more risk. And now in my in my experience, it's the opposite. So it's getting to the opposite. So some investors, maybe because the market is so overheated in Switzerland, comparing to Switzerland, to the history of Switzerland, it's overheated so that there are some investors searching the niches of the market, and at that point it's getting very interesting. So we have the most risky projects were investors, not private, so professional investors, and not anymore the cooperatives.
I guess relates back to what you said, as cooperatives becomes larger, they need to...
Yes, maybe yes.
And I will go back to that program issue that you were saying. Cooperatives describe what needs to be done, but there is also a competition involved. So do you think cooperatives describing everything leads to a uniformity in sort of similarity in housing that is produced in Zurich? Would you think that 20-25 years of creativity is slowing down and becoming repetitive, or is it still ongoing?
It's still ongoing. In Switzerland is a land of standards, I guess, like US, USA also and so on. But in Switzerland there's always this pragmatic side, character. So we are not, if I could answer your question, maybe I try, we don't have, we as Zurich or Swiss people, we are not really interested in repeating some things, and that's also, you see that also on the construction side. It's not a coincidence that we still, when we use concrete for slabs, it's not a coincidence that we do it in the traditional old way with shalom, and then we put concrete on the side. Prefabrication is not really spread in Switzerland. Maybe it's coming, but I mean the country, the cities are too small for that, and the intervention, the plots, the parcels are small, and there is no interest for standards and beautiful and so on. And people, the cooperatives, they want to have their own house with their own identity. It's very important. Also for the people, that they can say, this is my house, it looks like it's red, or it's blue, or it's the one with the high ceiling, whatever. So yes, it's a little bit like that.
When you say, for instance, you said there are things you don't discuss, walls are always white, wooden flooring, etc. I wonder if, so for instance, in other countries, especially England, what we notice is that a housing association would always use the same paint, same wood, same letterboxes, same door handles, same heating system, things like that. Do you see that cooperatives here do the same, or is it always unique?
They think about that, but they always lose their minds. No, it's interesting. I did not often think about that, but It's really like that. They really are interested in, as I said, to maintain a house. It's much more easy when you have the same heating system and so on. But sometimes they do it, but mostly they don't repeat things. But it's interesting. I don't know why, because maybe it depends on the person who is responsible for that case. And one person thinks a wooden floor is better to maintain, and another one says floor with tiles is better to maintain. So it's mostly up to us. So we make proposals. Maybe sometimes based on the standards they have, the cooperatives, but the discussion is always, no, not always, but it's mostly open. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we win with our proposal, sometimes they win, but yeah, it's quite open. It's always a reflection what is the best, not what was the best since 50 years, so we do it the next 50 years. It's always looking forward what could be the best.
I think Lucia might ask some questions, but two questions. One is how long, with what life expectancy do you design? And when you receive the specifications from housing cooperatives, what year of maintenance they ask for instance. Floors have to be 30 years, usable for 30 years. Do you?
Maybe first the second question. I cannot remember that the cooperatives or our clients said our house has to stay 200 years and we have to maintain it like that or that. Mostly comes from us that we think about how the different materials or parts of a house are connected. Are they glued or screwed and so on? What do we have to change in 30 years? What do we have to change in 50 years and so on? It's not, maybe in the background of the cooperatives there is a regulation, I don't know. The professional investors on the free market, they are thinking and working about that, but mostly they have an agenda in the back of the brain and let us talk, and they think maybe yes. But cooperatives, they have, in my experience, they have not often a plan how to maintain a house. And what was your first question?
It was the same. Like with what, in your design, how long do you foresee the house to be usable?
Yeah. What's not existing, or no, it's existing, but in small bubbles in Switzerland. We can calculate costs for the construction, for building a house, and there are a lot of standards and a lot of experience, but there are almost no standards to calculate the maintaining of a house. And now it's starting a little bit. For example, where I teach in Winterthur, there are some chairs working with that, and I think it's really important. As an architect, you have to design the building, but you also have to think the maintaining of the building. It's clear, and also the client, the developer, and so on. But in Switzerland, I don't know how it's in other countries, but in Switzerland, there are not a lot of tools for that.
I mean, I can answer your question, how it is in other countries. But what I know is, for instance, in 2050, UK will go zero carbon, so that's the big policy, zero carbon. So we see housing associations already thinking, okay, we are not installing any gas anywhere, because in 20 years we need to do them again.
Yeah.
So they have already started going back and changing heating systems
Yeah.
first.
Okay, that also happens in Switzerland. So this is, but it's always now we have to solve that and then that and then so on. But there's not a big plan how to reach seriously the zero carbon target.
And another thing I can tell is that, for instance, in England, in all new buildings almost, the bathrooms, I'm not talking about bath, sink, toilet, but the room is the exact same size, like everywhere, 220 by 2.
Yeah. In Switzerland it's mostly 170 to 230. But yes, I know it's in Switzerland. You have a little bit more Spielraum, freedom. Yeah. And of course, it's also the Wohlstand. We have a lot of money in Switzerland. The richness. So, now, if you know, when a bathroom, sometimes when a bathroom is a little bit bigger than the standard, and you have arguments for that, why it's a better solution in general, it's okay. So we don't have the really hard pressure in terms of money. That's good, but.
I think I'm interested in seeing how research would help your practice. What would you, kind of as an architect, what would be important for you to see in the research that would maybe influence your design decisions?
We live in a time where knowledge, facts are really important, and I have to say I like to see graphics and so on, to maybe to follow and in the best case to understand how it works, how the work works, and that's always based on research. So that's important. But when I talk with colleagues, I see myself often throwing with numbers, and the other one throws back. So how many square meters per person we reach, and so on, and then. I don't know. The research is in general it's important, but we do also research in our office, not professionally, but it's always connected to our chairs in these different schools. And architecture is a little bit. I would say a wide field where we need precise research and open research also. Research can also be try out from something and see what happens. So there's a word.
Experiment.
Huh?
Experiment.
Yes, experiment, but it's not so important. So that's quite an unprecise answer I gave. Because I don't know, I don't only believe in facts as a work as an architect is always also the field of imagination, so unprecise science.
I think maybe also to follow up on that, it reminds me, we had a conversation with the municipality in Barcelona and the way they also do competitions. And what they were saying is that they have to have a fine line between too experimental. A little bit what you were saying is something what's expected, what people expect of their housing, but the architect sometimes also wants to experiment and maybe push the limits in design, space, material, sustainability. Have you found that through your kind of testing? Have you found a project to then have become maybe too experimental?
No. You know, housing or how we live is quite. It's not a precise science because the humankind is quite resilient. So when an apartment is an experiment, we can manage that. I think it's always important that we think or we design humanistic, that the rooms have windows and so on, for example. We are responsible to design a good space, and that doesn't cost good space, it's just a way. And then there's always this experimental part, but I think it's important to experiment always, because in my eyes, architects are responsible for the future, and there are people like the facility management is responsible for the past. They have to manage and maintain a house, but they always look back what worked and what didn't work, and we are responsible to make proposals for the future. Otherwise, we are not architects anymore, and we are engineers or whatever. And so experiments can scheitern, they can fail. Experiments can fail, but I think it's okay sometimes, because an experiment also can bring good solutions.